Westerns. Who likes them? Me. Who watched them as a kid? I love Westerns. It's one of my favorite things. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a cowboy. I was pretty convinced that's what I was going to end up being. I can remember my dad bought me my first cap pistol. It was that chrome pistol with a white handle. You might remember those. And I had my belt on and my hat. And I would practice my draw all the time because you have to be a quick draw in the West. You know? You still got it though. That's right. Being on riding that big horse, you know, the white horse, that big nice horse. One that made everybody else's horse look puny, you know, that horse. Yeah. I love Westerns. All kinds of Westerns, whether it's John Wayne, The Lone Ranger, it didn't matter. I watched anything that would come on that had a Western. One of my favorite scenes was, what I always liked to watch was, you get those old, favorite characters was one of those gold miners, you know, them old gruffy guys. They had the hat that was all, they had like Lord Little Ways from Friday, and you know, and they always had a donkey with them, right, or a mule with them, and to carry their what? Oh, yeah, you can't trust that to a horse. You got to get that to a donkey, because donkeys are sure-footed, right? They're able to navigate that rough terrain, right? Those steep climbs and those narrow paths where the rocks would kind of fall off to the side. That donkey just kept getting it, right? Kept on getting it. Today we're going to be talking about a celebration. We're going to talk a little bit about a donkey. Did you come to church today to hear about a donkey? Wait till the end, we'll find out. So in today's passage, Jesus is entering, it's the week of Passover. He's coming into town. The town's crowded. And he sends his two disciples to go and get a donkey, a mule. He says, why would you think he would do that? Why do you think he would pick a donkey? It's not a prestigious animal, is it? Donkeys are kind of workhorses, aren't they? Used in everyday life, right? Used to carry stuff like the gold miners would carry gold around, or gold dust, right? Do you know you can still do that if you wanted to today? You can still go ride those trails. You can. You can. You can go, if you go to Grand Canyon, you can ride a donkey today. They'll take you up on the trails. Sure will. You better hold on though, because some of those trails are pretty slim. Slim pickings. You know, and I used to always wonder why they used a donkey, and I guess I always figured they had smaller feet and maybe closer to the ground, so it was maybe sturdier, you know, had that better center of balance. And I don't know if they had some kind of radar where they just knew not to step off, but you know, they always counted on that donkey, right, to carry them. But if you go up there and you ride on one, I'm not sure you like the fact that the donkey actually likes to walk close to the edge. Did you know that? He doesn't hug the canyon wall. He actually likes to walk close to the edge, because he can see where he's going. It bothers him more to be over here on the canyon wall and know there's an edge over there and not know where the drop-off is. He wants to see where that drop-off is and walk along. But that kind of scary if you're riding, right? You like riding on a donkey and you're riding towards the edge? I'm going to walk. I don't like that. They're not glamorous animals, are they? Anybody ever seen a donkey in person? Been to a petting zoo somewhere, maybe? I don't know. Grew up with one in your backyard? I don't know. Yeah? Could be. They're work animals, right? And that's what they were used for back then, too. They were work animals. They weren't glamorous animals. You could use them to do things around town or in the big city or out in the country, but they didn't work stuff. They didn't do glamour stuff. You know, they weren't a white stallion. Why didn't Jesus pick a white stallion to come in on you? He knew there was going to be a parade and these people were going to be singing his praises and laying down their coats and these palms. And, you know, if I'm making an entrance, I want to come in on a stallion. You know, a big old horse. You know, look down on everybody. How you doing? You know, glad to be here. But that wasn't Jesus, was it? Mm-mm. Yeah, that's just my ego. That's not Jesus' ego. Jesus came in humbly, didn't he? He picked a humble animal, an everyday animal, to make his entrance. To come into the city, you know, if you ride a horse, like I just pointed out, you'd be looking down on people. But a mule, a donkey, it's not very high, is it? If you were sitting on a donkey, you're going to be looking people in their face. You're going to see into their eyes. You're going to be able to look into their soul. Jesus came in humbly because that's what the prophecy said he would do, right? If you go to Zechariah 9:9, you're going to see that that's the prophecy he was fulfilling. Yes, he was the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Prince of Peace. He was all those things, but he was also a servant. He came to serve mankind, to help mankind, to help us on this little journey we call life. Right? That's the animal he picked to do his work. That common little gray, not even a pretty color. Couldn't you have picked a zebra or something? Some stripes, something. But it wasn't his first donkey ride, was it? No, probably not. I mean, church tradition says, even though the Bible doesn't say it, that, you know, when we picture the manger, we picture Joseph and Mary coming. How do we picture them coming? Everyone you pictures probably pictures what? Mary riding on a donkey, right? And I'm sure that when he had to escape, they had to escape to Egypt. Mary probably rode on a donkey. Jesus was small, he probably rode on a donkey. That's a long way for a toddler to be walking, isn't it? And probably when he returned back, he probably had rode a donkey. So he wasn't a stranger to riding a donkey. You know, even church tradition even has it that the donkey was such a good servant that if you look on a donkey's back, you'll see a black cross. Have you ever noticed that on a donkey's back? Between his shoulders? That there's a black cross. A lot of donkeys have that on there. Sure do. Check it out. Go look. Now everybody's going to go out here today looking for a donkey. That black preacher lying to me? I don't know. Let's go see if he has that black cross. I actually have a picture of one. You want to see it after church. I was going to show it to you, but I figured it was too small. But it's true. So the donkey was a servant, right? But just a common servant. Everyday, workhorse type. Nothing fancy. You know any people like that? Just everyday folk. Work hard. Not noticed. Kind of blend in. But they're working hard. You know any folks like that? I know some folks like that. And that's the animal Jesus chose. And you know, another name for a donkey is just a common, don't say it. That's what you see if you do it. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. It's a donkey. Let's just stay with donkey. But the question is, do you want to be a donkey? Because, you know, if the church is called to carry Christ out into the world, aren't we called to be like that donkey who carried Jesus into Jerusalem? To carry Christ out into the world. Me and you and I, we, all of us, are called to be donkeys. Now some of you just gave me that, what you talking about, Willis? I ain't a donkey. It's not a bad thing to be a donkey. In this case, it's a good thing to be a donkey. That we can be that workhorse, that hard worker, everyday, unnoticed, humble servant who takes Jesus from this place out there into a world that is in so much need of Christ in their life. Now, I know you probably don't want to be a donkey because it's a lot of hard work. And you got to live by the edge sometimes. And you got to take those rocky roads, up hills, carrying a lot of burden, sometimes not even your burden. Sometimes other folks' burden. And then you don't even get noticed for it. That's not a pleasant job. That doesn't sound like something I probably would normally sign up for. Except, look what we get to do. We get to bring the Prince of Peace, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, our Lord, our Savior, their Savior, out to folks who need to know Him. We get to lift them up when they're down. We get to show them Christ's love when they need it most. We get to encounter people where they're at and serve them. Isn't that what Christ would do? Isn't that what Christ did? Wasn't He a servant first? Didn't He come from a humble manger? He didn't start off in a palace. He didn't come born to a royal family. Luxurious life. That's not how the story goes. He came from a humble beginning. And every time we encounter Jesus, we are encountering Jesus in the Bible helping folks. Or teaching folks that they are to love people. That they are to care for people. That they are to embrace those on the outskirts. Those that nobody else wants. Embrace those people. But they're sinners. Yep, we all are. But they're broken. So are you. But look at them. Look at you. But they're not like me. So is that good or bad? Who knows? But they worship different. I don't care. They don't worship at all. Embrace them more. But they're hungry. Feed them. Do you get my point? You're called to be a donkey. Each and every one of us is called to be a donkey. The donkeys have other traits, don't they? They're not just hard workers. That's right, Billy knows. They're stubborn, ain't they? They're stubborn. They're strong-willed. I can tell some of y'all looking at the person sitting next to you and say, well, you got that part already down. So you got that down. But you know there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being stubborn. The Hebrew people were known as stiff-necked in the wilderness, right? They were stubborn. Nothing wrong with being stubborn. Maybe that's what God needs. Some folks that are stubborn, some folks that will endure the burdens and the trials that will be placed before them, that are so stubborn that they will carry that word out even when there are people fighting against you. Even when there are people who are saying, oh, you're silly. You're silly for believing that. That's a silly thing to believe. I don't believe it. Even when there are people out there who say, I don't know where you get off on these fairy tales, magical tricks. It's all just a fantasy. If it makes you feel better, you believe that. When they try to discourage you, when they try to tell you what you know in your heart to be true is false, you need to be stubborn. You need to be stubborn. You need to say, well, let's look at what you believe compared to what I believe. Because at the end of the day, if I'm dead wrong, worst case scenario, I lived my life in a way that helped other people, that made a difference in somebody else's life. Where I was able to love people, and share with people, and show kindness to people, and offer an encouraging word to people, and lift them up from a place of despair, and to give them hope. But that's not how it ends. Because I know in my heart that I worship a God that has a place for me, and has promised me a room. I have a nice room, by the way. I know I do. It's going to have a view with the beach and stuff like that. No, just kidding. But that has promised me a place, that has died for my sins. And I know this in my heart. It's not just a passing whim or a thought. It's a conviction. Because I'm stubborn like a donkey. There is no give on that. There is no maybe on that. I'm going to plant just like a donkey, and I'm going to sit there, and I'm not going to move on it. Because I know it to be true.
Amen.
Right? And if you know that to be true, then you a donkey too. And when you can be that stubborn and not be moved by the world, but be in the world but not of the world, right? You're called to be different. When you can carry the gospel from this house to the world, then you're a donkey. Because that's what donkeys do. I can remember Connie Ten Boone was a Nazi concentration camp survivor, Christian, and would go around and she would give a testimony. She received an honorary degree one day from a university, and one of the reporters there said, you know, with all this hoopla and all this going on, he said, isn't it hard not to feel a lot of pride in what you've done? And get caught up in the moment? And here's what she said. I want to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. She said, young man, she said, when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday on the back of that donkey, and everybody was waving palm branches and throwing garments in the road and singing praises, do you think for one moment it ever occurred in that donkey's head that was all about him? She said, if I could be a donkey in which Jesus rides in his glory, then I will give him the praises and the honor. And that's what we're called to be a donkey like that. To go out into the world and work hard. Work that rough terrain. Survive those obstacles. And all the time singing God's praises and giving him the glory. Because it's through him that we're able to do just that. That we're able to navigate those tough trails. That we're able to carry that burden Burden that sometimes will buckle your knees, but it won't make you fall. But if you do fall, if something does get you down on your knees, it's a perfect place to be. Start praying, right? Because you know your God is there with you. And He's going to pick you right up and carry you to where you need to be. I firmly believe that. I've been knocked down many times, but I've never been defeated. You say, what about that time you lost that ball game? No, I just ran out of time. They didn't win. I just ran out of time. If I had a few more minutes, we would come back. 20 points is not that much. Anyway. So we're called to be donkeys. We are. But the question is, are you ready to be a donkey? You know, that donkey had to be untied, right? They had to untie that donkey and bring it to Jesus. It had to be untied from where it was. The question is, what's tying you up or tying you down? Is it lack of time? Lack of courage? Lack of faith? What is it you need to be untied from? Whatever it is, I would encourage you to loosen that rope and free yourself. Trusting in God that He will give you what you need. You will only come to Him and carry His word forward. Because a donkey is indeed what you're called to be. You know, I remember as a boy wanting to ride that white horse. To be that hero, the sheriff, brought law and order, you know, that guy, the main character. But you know, the more I've reflected on that as I've grown older and wiser, God had a different plan. Sure, I was going to be in that western scene, but He just wanted me to be a donkey. And I'm glad. Because that's the best part in the whole movie. How about you? You ready to be a donkey? If you are, join me in saying, Amen. Amen.